What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to Patriot Specialized. Thanks for tuning in today. On today's episode, we are going to talk about that thing that everybody's been asking about. We're going to talk about that $11,000 fine that Virginia issued for what I personally think isn't right. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Right across these plains and prairies, Rocky Mountain highs, fade off into the distance like ghost riders in the sky. Black smoke and white line, steel horses side by side. It's more than just a living, y'all. Hell, it's our way of life. We're the last of the cowboys.
All right. What's up, guys? Like I said in the intro, thanks for tuning back in today. Today, what appears to be the long-awaited discussion about the ticket that was issued by Virginia. Now, I feel like I need to say in full disclosure here, this didn't get issued to me. It did get issued to a very good friend of mine. Could have easily happened to me, but it's absolutely worth bringing up. The situation around this is questionable at best. I just don't agree. I don't think that the fine is justified with the offense, I guess would be a good way to put it. So what we got is a very close friend of mine who has become a very close friend of mine. Received a ticket in Virginia. Now, here's the situation. I'm going to set the tone here for a little bit for you. He normally pulls a mini deck, 34-foot well, mini deck trailer, triaxle. This particular load that he was on, he had given up his mini deck and went with a trailer exactly like mine, a Fontaine, 48-foot, 29-foot well with the flip on it, so it's a 53-foot trailer. So, triaxle trailer. So all he did was switch up for a mini deck for the Fontaine with a 29 well instead of a 34 well. Picks up a 980 wheel loader, cat wheel loader. You saw me haul one in a couple episodes ago up here to Michigan. So he picks this mini deck or this wheel loader up and heads to Virginia. Gets into Virginia on a scale on 81. I'm not sure which scale it is. I didn't ask him particularly. I don't think it really doesn't matter. But the scale on 81 pulls him in, does a inspection on him, and measures his axle spacing. Now, when he got this permit, he realized when they ordered the permit, they didn't actually really, him or his permit department didn't realize that he was pulling the Fontaine. It just didn't dawn on them. They had the license plate numbers correct. They had all that dimensions and all that stuff for the trailer itself correct. But it didn't dawn on them that it was different than the one they've been pulling, and they had permitted it for the same length that he pulls with the mini deck, which happens to be about 3 feet longer than the Fontaine. So what happened here is they decide to check his axle spacings, which is a thing. Their axle spacing, this is a thing that is sort of in contention with a lot of us. Axle spacings, it's very difficult to get an exact measurement on your axle spacing. So it really is a matter of who's holding a tape measure where on what number, whether you come up with 4'6" or come up with 4'7" or 4'9", or it really, I mean, there's a variant in there. There's a lot of wiggle room, but in this case, it didn't really matter. So what happened there was they measured on what we call the bridge. The bridge is the front axle, the steer axle, the center of the steer axle to the center of the rearmost axle. So what they did there is they measured that, and that is what they call the minimum axle spacing. So his minimum axle spacing was shorter than what his permit said. Key word there, shorter than what his axle said, or what his permit said. Now, some of you are probably thinking, some of you that do heavy haul or have done specialized and you understand how axle spacing works, you're probably thinking shorter is not good because the closer you get together, the less weight you can put per square inch, however they make their calculations, figure that out. Not the case in this case, because when he was issued the new permit, it was accurate. Same axle weights, same everything, just closer together. So, not the case in this one. Shorter really didn't make any difference as far as what he was allowed to haul per axle. So, they find this out, that his axle spacing is off. Now, in their mind, that now makes his permit void because it's not accurate. So they pull him back around, put him on a scale, weigh him again. I don't think they voided his permit from what he said, but they treated him as if they voided his permit. They put him back around, pulled him back around, put him on a scale, weighed him again, pulled him back around. Turns out that he is 108,500 pounds based on their scale. He actually has a CAT scale ticket that was 110,000, but their scale said 108.5, I believe it was. It's 108 and some change. And then they proceeded then to write him a violation and a fine based on 40 cents per pound that he was over the 80,000 pound allowed legal limit. 40 cents a pound. So basically what they did here is they said, no, you're shorter than what your permit says. So your permit's wrong. So we're going to take a permit from you, and then we're going to write you this giant, enormous fine based on your permit not being correct and you not having a permit. So this is actually a thing that happens in a lot of states. Ohio is terrible at it. Ohio is absolutely terrible at voiding a permit and then writing you for being overweight of 80,000, just like Virginia did here. Do I think it's right? Heck no. I don't think it's right. I don't. This is a $12,000, justify a $12,000 fine to me. How is that violation that we'll say that he did, that discrepancy, that brain fart that he had on his overall axle spacing, how is that justified by $11,470? I don't see it. I don't understand it. I don't agree with it. It makes absolutely no sense to me. I can see this is a permit violation. I can see where you're like, okay, listen, you aren't correct. What you said you asked for on your permit is not correct. However, not affecting our road surface, not affecting safety, not affecting any of those things. Here is your violation for having an incorrect permit. $250 fine, $200 fine, whatever. Standard fine. How is it that they think that oversight, literal oversight, that doesn't mean anything? He was longer, he was shorter than what his permit said he was longer than he was. So he's under his permit allowed length. We do this all the time. Guys, anybody who watches the channel and has pulled oversized, we do this all the time, especially with widths. If you got a load that's 10'2", you're going to permit that thing 10'6", just in case you're a little bit crooked, just in case whatever, there's something sticking out that they didn't know about or anything like that. We do this all the time. All the time. We permit over what our permit says. That is essentially what he did here. He permitted larger than what his actual load was. What? $12,000. Not quite. Close enough, though. So I just don't. Does the fine justify? Is the fine justified by the violation? In my mind, no. I am curious to what you guys have to say. I'd like you guys to leave a comment down below. I'm curious what you guys think about this, if this justifies this or not. But in my opinion, this is trying to put people out of business. Like, I just don't, this is a single truck owner operator. This isn't a corporation. This isn't somebody that has 400 or 500 trucks making them money. This isn't somebody that has a multi-million-dollar franchise that they can, that a $12,000 fine is no big deal. This is life-changing for a single truck owner operator. And it's just not right. It's just not right. When he got the new permit, he was issued a new permit while he was at the scale. When he got the new permit, his axle weights were exactly the same. Exactly the same weight was allowed at 71 feet as it was for 73 feet. So literally nothing changed on this permit. Not a dang thing except the axle spacing between this axle to this axle. The number. that was wrote on that permit is the only thing that changed. Routing was the same. Axle weights were the same. Gross weight was the same. Everything was the same except that one number. In my opinion, that is not worth an $11,000 fine. I just don't. And then the officer tells him, he said, well, you know, here's what you can do. You can take your old permit and your new permit into court, tell them it was an oversight, explain to the judge what happened, it was an oversight. They're going to reduce it to $1,000. Why are we going through all this if you know they're going to reduce it to $1,000? This poor guy has to stress for the next 3 months until he gets a court date on whether maybe it might get reduced to $1,000, maybe it might get reduced to $6,000, maybe it might get reduced, maybe not at all. Like, he doesn't. So this poor guy has to stress for the, because he put a different number on the permit that meant absolutely nothing to the new permit. I just don't understand it. So that is what you did see me in my comment where I said that we're going to talk about $11,000 fine. This is what we're talking about. I'll put up some screenshots during this. You'll probably have already seen them in the video. Some screenshots of the weights, the scale ticket from the scale itself. He has that. His CAT scale ticket, he also has that, and the fine itself, I'll put a shot up of that. Obviously, I'm not going to give any of his personal information. It's not important. It doesn't really matter. But I'll put those shots up so you can see actually what was going on there, black and white for yourself. I just don't. I am interested to hear what everybody has to say, but the bottom line of this, and the minute he called me, as soon as we got off the phone, I called my permit department and I said, hey, what are my axle spacings? So we made sure we were correct. So moral of this story is, man, make sure your axle spacings are right. If they are not right, measure, 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 and then measure again before you call those axle spaces again, especially in Virginia and Ohio, I can say for sure. I don't know about any other states off the top of my head, but those two, make sure that stuff is accurate because it makes a huge difference, and this is what happens. Ohio is the same way. They write a violation per pound, or they write a fine per pound, so it's a big deal. So that's what that fine was all about. Sorry to make you guys wait for it, but I wanted to do this in its own episode. I didn't want to kind of throw it into another one. I did want to tell you about it, so it created a little bit of anticipation for this particular video. But I appreciate you guys watching. If you're brand new to the channel and you like what you see, please hit that subscribe button and become part of the Patriot Specialized family. Hopefully you'll tune in. If you want to see some other stuff that I've done, man, I got a couple hundred videos behind me here. Go ahead and scroll back through. You're going to see some interesting stuff. Hopefully you'll see one that does you some good and you learn something from it. So thanks again for tuning in, and we will talk to you guys on the next one. Remember, check them axle spacings. Check them axle spacings. We'll talk to you all soon. Everybody stay safe out there.